On this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone, we're going to have another Tuesday Wrestling, but this time we're just going to go with Impact Wrestling and AEW Dark. So, hope you guys are ready. Let's get started with this brand new episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things pro wrestling from AEW, NXT, New Japan, NWA, Impact, and many promotions, other wrestling such as matches, individual wrestlers, and all you name it. So today we're going to do Tuesday Wrestling. Now, I mentioned I'm only going to do AEW Dark and Impact. Reason is, as you all know, NWA normally has their shows on Tuesdays, but ever since they stopped doing many live events since the start of the coronavirus, the stay home order, and all of this to reduce the spread of the virus, apparently they have been not doing wrestling shows but throwing these storylines that kind of have no sense in the wrestling thing. But if you guys are still interested in watching those are fine. I'm not gonna put that here because it has nothing to do with wrestling. But if I do find an old video of NWA, I'll probably post it somewhere down the line or put it on the podcast. So I think that's about it for that. So let's get started with AEW Dark. Alright, so let's talk about AEW Dark. Now, this time, this particular episode has been reduced about less than an hour. In the previous shows that they posted on YouTube, it has gone to an hour and a half or so. But this time, this week, they actually reduced it to like somewhere about 45 minutes or so. Don't quote me on that because I'm still trying to watch it. They had pretty good matches that they had, even though some of them are squash match. But there is one match that kind of did not fit in, but it was good, and I don't know about it, but we'll get to it. So let's start from the first match. We had John Cutler versus Billy Gunn, and he was accompanied by his son, fellow Gun Club member, Austin Gunn, Billy's son. So, basically, this entire time, Billy's son, he's much like him. A little fun, energetic. He likes to laugh. That's the same kind of thing that Billy did back in the old days with doing all of that. I don't know if that's genetic that Austin inherited it from him. But it was pretty fun that he acted like that. But as you know, Billy won the match. Of course, it was pretty fun, but there was a moment where Billy slapped John Schuyler, and Austin was having so much fun. Like, he just can't believe it that his dad spanked him. So, so Billy won this match, and it was good. It was alright. I'll give it a pass. Then we had an interview with Dustin Rhodes and Brandy. As you know, the Natural Nightmares are ranked number 2 in the rankings of the hunt for the tag team championships. Now, as you know, recently we've been seeing Allie, aka the Bunny, showing up out of nowhere, getting into the mind of QT. Now, we don't know what's her angle, but it looks like QT has mesmerized her for whatever. She showed up in a red dress. I don't know exactly what AEW are intending to do with her. I know that ever since she started with AEW, she was a face and then turned to heel when she brought her real life husband, forgot his name, Dexter or Dennis, who plays the Blade, who portrays the Blade in the Butcher and the Blade tag team. But I still don't know what's the angle, what AEW are doing with her. I know we haven't seen Allie for a while, ever since the start of the whole before months ago when they were doing many of the shows down at Daly's place, and now she's back. It's still unclear what direction they're taking her. I know that they started out as a face when she was in a rivalry with Brandy, but don't know what's the angle on this yet. But I'm sure. Um, then we had a tag team match with John Cruz teaming up with Joe Alonso versus the Butcher and the Blade. This one, uh, it was alright. Not one of the best tag teams. But in case you want to know, we'll skip ahead of the winner. The Butcher and the Blade won. Then we had another interview, but this time it was the most unlikely interview. There were still tensions between both Brandon Cutler and what's his name, Peter Avalon, since they're both winless in AEW, so they have no clue. So Leva Bates kind of stepped up as a not the leader, but more of the brains. They were teaming up against the Natural Nightmares. So that's the main event for AEW Dark. So let's just move on forward. Now we have a women's match. Now this one was unique in many ways. We did not have any familiarized female wrestlers like Hikaru Shida or Rio or Penelope Ford, but there was wrestlers that we have seen in both AEW and AEW Dark. It started, the person who came out first. She's my favorite, Christy James. If you guys must know, I met her last year during a wrestling show. She wasn't wrestling, but she was there to sign autographs, and she had her title for Baja Stars USA. She was the first ever women's champion for that promotion, but I'm not sure what's going on. They were supposed to do some shows, but they haven't done that. The promoter ended up sick. It had nothing to do with the virus, in case you're wondering. But we've been apprised to what happened. But Christy has made appearances on Dark and AEW Dynamite. If you saw her last week, she faced Hikaru Shida. That was a pretty good match. But she's been in many AEW Dark. I'm not sure if AEW has any interest, because if you must know, she has been, I don't know if she's still currently signed with The Crash. The Crash hasn't done any promotions, any events ever since the whole thing with the pandemic, but they're not even televised. But her opponent of the night was someone we already met for a week ago from the previous AEW Dark episode, Kylan King, who was in the match against Penelope Ford. Now, this was a unique match because I'm sure that many people still are trying to figure out who are these two wrestlers. Now, if you're familiarized with Christy Jane, you know who she is. She's this really amazing Brazilian girl who has a unique style. She trained in AAPW, a native from Texas. I discovered her when she made appearances on Sammy Guevara's vlogs. She was there on some of the earlier ones. I'll try to remind you guys which episodes were they. But it was a good match. I'm not gonna lie. It was a very intense match. Christy has this aggressiveness when it comes to it. So does Kaylin. But Christy, to me, I felt like maybe, hopefully, Christy James should be part of the main roster. I mean, I will love nothing more than see her in AEW because I know she wrestled in many promotions over the years, not only from the United States, down in Mexico as well, and so is Japan. She was in Stardom too. But hopefully AEW can give her an opportunity to be part of the roster. So Christy won this match. Now the next match was a tag team. This one was EJ Lewis and Big Game Leroy. And this was a unique. Now, I have seen Big Game Leroy. I didn't know his name at the time. He was that guy who comes out playing on his Nintendo Switch. And he wouldn't let go. But he has this unique where he's just playing. But he loses. But he doesn't lose the focus. Like if you come after him, he will just duck out of the way or try to do something. Kind of interesting. I think I might have seen him on Rev Pro. I'm not 100% sure. But they were facing against Proud and Powerful, Santana Ortiz, and Santana Ortiz. But as you all know, as any squash matches, Proud and Powerful won. Now the main event was also a tag team. Was Brandon Cutler teaming Peter Avalon, facing off against the Natural Nightmares. Now, once the nightmares come, and here comes Allie, it's still unclear where she's going. QT had her sit down at the commentary with Taz and Excalibur. Now, it's still unclear what the motive is with her and QT. Now, as you all know, there has been a rivalry between both Brandy and Allie in the past, and I know the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny were attempting to destroy Cody because they call him the snake of the whole thing. Kind of similar what we've been seeing with Roberts calling him Caesar. But I don't know what it is. But if you must know, as always, Peter and Cutler never got along, but the Natural Nightmares won. So that means they could be in the line of the title hunt. But it's still unclear what Allie is trying to do because I'm still trying to understand where they're gonna go with it. But as much as I love the Natural Nightmares, I would love to see them maybe win the title shot or whoever wins. As you know, tomorrow or should I say, well, today is Tuesday, and now we're going to Wednesday. Um, Kenny Omega and Hangman are putting their titles on the line against Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. So that's soon. So I think that's about it what we got for AEW Dark. So let's move on with the show with uh, this recent Impact Wrestling, and this one is kind of interesting. So I'll be right back. Welcome back, folks. Right now we're now entering with Impact Wrestling. It started out great with the recap over the whole tournament for the number one contendership, who will face Tessa Blanchard for the Impact World Championship. First match of the night started out was a women's tag team match between Kyrie Lee teaming with Susie versus Kara Hogan and Tasha Steelz. Now, as you all know, these two women had their fair issues towards Kylie Ray over the time. They both lost to her. They can't stand her. Susie has always been being the one person doing that's bad. The match has always been, it seemed like they had everything going, but Tasha Steelz and, of course, Kara Hogan has always been trying to prove that they are way better than them. It's always been like that. Susie has done many moments where there was a moment where she slapped Tasha. That's like, whoa, that's an aggressive. And I think that even Josh Matthews is worried that sooner or later Su Yung is going to come out and get her revenge on both these women because we all know who Susie is underneath it. She is the undead bride, Su Yung. And I hate to see Tasha, having nightmares of her. And Carrie Hogan has dealt with her in the past, but Tasha, no way, she hasn't. So frankly, Tasha and Kara Hogan won, but this is far from over between both teams. Then we have the next interview with Ace Austin. Now, as you all know, Ace Austin, from the beginning of the tournament, he was in fact took the spot of Ken Shamrock, who Shamrock was wiped out by Michael Elgin. But Ace Austin was, I don't know what he did to convince, but he was in. As soon as he was saying, okay, yes, I have been X Division champion, now it's time to move on forward. But all of a sudden, here comes Moose with his delusions of grandeur, thinking that he is the real champion because he carries the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. That title is inactive, but in Moose's mind, he thinks this is the real title. I'm the true champion. The Impact World Champion, second grade. That's what he thinks. So he's trying to convince Ace Austin that the Impact World title is nothing. It's not prestigious. This title is. So he's trying to convince Austin to say, you want this title. I don't know what Ace Austin's thinking because last week, Trey, on the other hand, he laughed at Moose because they see the bigger picture. They saw last week, if you saw it, they saw that title is inactive, but Moose is not listening. You're not the champion. Tessa is. But we'll see what happens when Tessa comes back. Now, the next match was interesting. We had Joseph P. Ryan, along with Jake and Dave Chris of OVE, facing off Crazy Steve. Now, weeks ago, Ryan called Steve that the word crazy is offensive. I mean, Steve is not an offensive word, but he brought them there. And even though Joseph Ryan has been trying to cancel him and all this other stuff. Now, he did some great maneuvers to beat him. And of course, Jake and Dave interfere. Now, as soon as the match was over, this is what happened. Joseph made one of them betray each other. And the person to do that was Jake. He betrayed his own brother. And he sided with Joey. So this means it's the end of OVE. Basically, since Sammy is no longer with OVE, Madman Fulton quit. Now it appears the Chris brothers are split. So what does this mean for Dave Christ? Well, all we can do is wait for time, but I do know one thing. This is going to be a blood feud between two brothers, and this is going to be an interesting feud. But the real question is, who's going to stand up against Joey Ryan and the cancel culture, even though we haven't seen RVD or Katie Forbes for a while. Now, the next match we had Rohit Raju, who was facing against Chase Stevens. Now, a week ago, Rohit has always been the guy who's been saying that it's his time now. He was unsuccessful on certain opportunities, pursuit of the X Division Championship, when he took Moose's spot for the number one contenders for the world title, So he had these opportunities. Chase Stevens, TNA legend, got in his face a week ago, and we don't know if he planned it. But it was a good match. You had a TNA legend versus an upcoming star for Impact, and of course, great match. I enjoy everything about this one. But frankly, the match ended with Rohit Raju winning the match, and so basically we could see more of him now that he's a single competitor. He had the Desi Hit Squad, so he is no longer with that stable faction. So he's gonna go on his own. And then we see the interview with Navia and Havoc. Now, it was still unclear what Navia was doing in Impact for weeks. Now, we do know Madison Rayne knew both Havoc and Navia were friends or enemies or whatever the scenario. She wouldn't give a straight answer. But now it appears Navia came here to help Havoc since Havoc has been dealing with the wrath of Father James Mitchell, and now they're here to put the Knockouts division on notice. And this is gonna be one wild, crazy, mayhem team to destroy the Knockouts division. Then we have the whole locker room with Madison Rayne, and the special guest is Chris Bay. Now, much of this, as you know, Madison Rayne has that sleazeball Johnny Swinger. And all of a sudden, Swinger has been speaking for Chris Bay. It was annoying. So does Madison Rayne knows it. But the real question Josh Matthews asks, why do you have him around? You don't need him. He acts like he thinks he's part of the whole picture. He did the same thing with Willie Mack. He even did that. He thinks like he's all fun, but he's not seeing the reality. But it wouldn't surprise me if Johnny Swinger costs Chris Bay the title when he faces Willie Mack, and this is going to be interesting. Now, we had a Impact Plus flashback moment of the week. It was in Slammiversary 2017. This one, or 13, I don't know. Anyway, it was Drew Gallows, we know him as Drew McIntyre, versus Bobby Lashley for the TNA World Title. And this one was a great match. Not to mention, it was classic. it was a classic match. I enjoyed that one too. Then we have a little interview with Jordan Grace. As we all know, we haven't seen her not ever since she won not since, I don't know if it was Rebellion or whatever the scenario was. So anyway, She's been working out. Taya Valkyrie shows up, like saying, "Oh, Jordan, you're a disgrace. You haven't showed up for a week. You just disappeared." But of course, Jordan was up for the challenge, telling Taya to remind her she's still up for a rematch for the title, and she didn't have the proper, so she gave her the opportunity. How about next week? So, so Taya has no clue what to do, so she decides to find John. John help her set up everything. Now we go to the next match. This one is the number one contendership for the Impact World Tag Team Championship. This one is the best match of the tag team division for this one. It was the Rascals, Dez and Wentz, versus TJP and Faha Bal. This was an interesting, and now it started out where Faha Bal wanted to be the first one out, but TJ wanted to be in. So Baha Fallout actually grabbed him and pushed him, put him on the other side. So TJP tried to do the same thing, but it was not work. But it was being serious. It was a great match. It was one of the best tag team matches I ever seen. I have to say, this falls as one of the best matches for Impact Wrestling. I know that currently outside of Impact and WWE, the best tag team division is AEW. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Impact gets themselves to make the tag team division a priority. But it was great. But as frankly, there had to be a winner, and the winner was the Rascals. Now, the Rascals showed their respect for Faha Bal and TJP. Now, we can see this rematch with these guys gone forever. It will be one of the best, to see. Then we see a video package with Deonna Purrazzo saying what she's capable of, that she's the best technical wrestler, all this and that. And it's been announced she will make her debut in Impact Wrestling next week. I'm excited. I'm really want to see what she's going to put in for Impact. I know she's been there before, but I can't wait. I'm a fan. I enjoy it. Then we have a little segment with Rosemary where she was hanging out with Johnny E. Bravo. Now, Johnny E. Bravo has been dealing the crap with Taya, how she treats him. Taya hasn't been a happy capper ever since she lost the Knockouts title to Jordan Grace. But Rosemary is giving him the opportunity, like saying, look, I understand that you're dealing with this crap. I'm willing to offer you to join me. So I think the problem is Johnny's still dealing with the fact, okay, look, Rosemary's being kind to him all this time. Well, Taya, but he's always been on Taya's side. So he's conflicted with who should he side. Should he side with Taya or Rosemary? But only time will tell where we're going to go with that. Then we see Michael Elgin. Now, as you all know, Michael was close in winning his match against Trey. And he was pretty much upset the fact that Sammy got involved. Now, he does that ICU thing again, but practically it didn't happen his way. But he still has that delusion, much like Moose. He's saying he is the number one contender, and he is now gonna be world champion. You don't have the title, Elgin. You need the title. But he's saying that Tessa is a coward. No, she's not. We all know what's going on, or he's ignoring. He wants to be champion. That's always been his motive. But as soon as here comes Shamrock, returning after he was being viciously attacked, it was like it's still going to be going on. Now let's go to the main event. This one was part of the finals of the number one contenders. Ace Austin versus Trey. Now, as soon as Ace Austin was ready, the Rascals music was already been played, but no Trey. It's still unclear who it was. And of course, you see the remaining Rascal members, Dez and Wentz. They find his body like lying around, unconscious. They don't know what happened, but Wentz, on the other hand, he has his suspicious feelings who was behind it. And the person they believe is Ace Austin. Now, I'll talk to you guys about about who I think attacked, because I don't think it's Ace Austin, because Ace Austin may be devious, but he could have beaten Trey in the ring with the tricks he's done. But Wentz put in a lot of interesting way, even though he was already in a match earlier. And Madison thinks that he was the one that attacked Trey, but saying he abandoned him. He just went to the ring. But Wentz has no interest in getting the title. He wants retribution for his best friend's attack, and he believes it was Ace Austin. But man, Wentz put up a hell of a fight. I don't think Ace Austin might have realized how strong Wentz can be. But sadly, Ace Austin won, so that means he will be the number one contender. Now, here's the way I see it about the whole mission, the whole thing with what happened to Trey. Now, there's three likely scenarios that I do think what happened. Yes, he was attacked, but the real question, who was behind it? There's three logical suspects I can think of. One is Michael Elgin. Now, why do I think it's Michael? A, Michael lost to him. He's nuts. He probably will have a hard time trying to deal with the fact that he lost to Trey, a man he could have easily beat. And of course, we all know his delusions of grandeur, that he's saying he should be number one contender. He is meant to be champion. That's always been a factor and no secret. Now, he is suspect number one on my book. Suspect number two, it's Moose. Now, why do I think Moose? I mean, come on, man. Moose is not that crazy. Well, it's more than that. If you recall last week, Moose told him that if he does become number one contender, he will have an opportunity to get the TNA World title from him. But Trey and the rest of the Rascals laughed at him because they viewed that title as like, it's inactive. It doesn't mean anything. But to Moose, he thinks it is. That it's the prestigious title. The Impact World title is second grade. So he's the most likely because he did not like Trey's attitude, how he disrespected him. Now, who is the third? That is the thing that came into my mind. As soon as Impact Wrestling ended, they showed a video clip about, they didn't mention some wrestling promotions are not allowed to, or don't speak to each other, like mention them. Like unlike Impact, they talk about New Japan, AAA, other ones. There's this guy, hooded guy, I don't know who he is, drinking some liquor or whatever it is, watching the news saying that several wrestlers were released from a company and good luck on the future endeavors. Now, in my mind, I know who it is, and he possibly is the most likely suspect. If you guys must know who it is, I think it's EC3. Why do I think? It's no surprise that EC3 had made a big impact in Impact Wrestling during this time. He was in WWE before, but they never did anything right with him. And they still haven't done anything right with him in WWE, even when he was in NXT and then pushed the main roster. He wasn't given the opportunity, but Impact has given him that. So do I think he's the one who could have attacked Trey? Yes, we have been seeing videos of him, like showing this aggressive side of him. But only time will tell. We still don't know. That's what it is. Now, those are my three likely suspects. But if you guys have any idea who actually attacked Trey, leave a comment down in the bottom, and we'll talk about it soon. I'll reply to you guys if you like. Maybe we can try to figure out who it is, and all that. We'll just go from there. But I think that's it for today, what we have right now for Tuesday Wrestling. Like I said, we'll talk about AEW Dark and Impact, so since we don't have NWA Power. So, I think that's about it. So I must bid all of you adieu. Stay safe, wash your hands, but please, people, be kind to each other. I know we're dealing with a crisis around the country. I know many people are protesting over what happened to George Floyd. What happened to him was uncalled for. I agree. I do not like the antics. But doing what you're doing right now, those protesters attacking people's businesses and all that, will not solve a thing. But please be kind to each other. We are one, and we have to be kind to each other. So I must bid all of you adieu, goodbye, mwah, and have a nice day. Bang.